Can you all see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our third class. This is going to be on identifying customer needs. How many of you were able to read the book for the week, the chapter for the week? Which last week, I mean, so if you go on our Slack, yeah, the software cohort, it's literally the second item I shared, which is product management jumpstart. So whenever I say let's read a chapter, this is what I'm referring to. And I've also pinned it here in pinned so you can get there faster. Click on that and download it to your phone or to your laptop, whichever is more convenient for you. And last week we had to read. Sorry, someone's just joined. Let me let them in. Okay. Uh, okay, so last week we had to read chapter 2. I said, was everyone able to read that?
Yes.
Okay. So chapter 1 we've done, chapter 2, and there's a lot of insights in here. I tell stories of past cases where we see evolution. In chapter 1 we saw the evolution from this is what a MacBook used to look like. Compare this to what we have in today's present time. So you can see the evolution. So there's tons of stories. I can only teach you the concepts. I ask that everyone, in given the past history of this course, those people that have gotten the most out of it are those that engage. If all you do is simply attend and then during the week you do whatever you want, then I can tell you right now you're wasting your time because you will not get anything out of it. If you engage, do the exercises that I post at the end of this course, you will be thankful because you would have evolved, you would have grown, and being the best product manager that you can be, and the chances of you landing a job increase tremendously. Become very, very high. So I would beg of you to engage and, weekly do the readings. And then when you come to the classes, everything that we do would make sense. So if you haven't, please do read chapter 2. We went through the concepts last week, which was understanding the product life cycle, and then you consolidate that by reading the chapter. Next week, we'll have to read, it will be identifying customer needs. So we're going to go through it in today's class, and then you consolidate by reading the chapter. So it's been designed to carefully onboard you and really give you the skills that you need, the firm understanding on the principles that we practice in tech. Okay, that's done. And now let's move on to the class for today. But before we begin, I observed that last week was quite a struggle because each time I mention tech or product, I understand that in the tech in just in the world of software development, the world is it's very much going through a transformation at the moment. And what you find is at the backbone of most businesses is that they have a strong software, or they have a strong product, or they have a strong platform. I mean, I can give you examples of several platforms. Last week I was using lots of Amazon. I use WhatsApp. All of these are software. So therefore, I just want to make this clarification that what we focus on is software-based product management, because there's also hardware-based. Let's say you're going to an ATM and you're going to pay, and you insert your card to make a payment. That's a combination of a physical product, which is an ATM itself, physical. And then there's also the software. The software is what's inside that enables you to put your PIN. That's software. Software says, please enter your PIN. And if your PIN is right, it accepts payment. That's software. So when you think of a product, it's a composition of software and hardware. Hardware is physical. Software is unseen. It's behind the scene. It's what powers, that product to work. If I go to an ATM and there's no software in it and I put my card, it won't even go inside to give me the cash that I need. If I go to a POS and I put in my card and there's no software inside, then nothing happens. So that's how you know the dynamics is a combination of software and hardware. In this course, we focus on software. Software runs the world. It's what drives the engine of most applications that you use. Your phone right now is a combination of software and physical, which is the hardware. The hardware is what you're currently using, what you can hold in your hands. The software, it's what's inside. You don't get to see it. It's the logic. So that's what we focus on here. How do you build that logic? How do you understand? So we seek to understand the engine behind business success. A large proportion of businesses today are tech businesses. This simply means they have a powerful software behind them to serve their customers. Okay, so you look at WhatsApp. How do you get to make calls? I don't know if you ponder. How does that even work? That you make a call to someone who's in a different country. How does that even work? That's software. So you have product managers that seek to understand how to build systems, how to create products that will help people do the things that they need to do. So in here are some of the brands. You can see, I'm sure you would have recognized Slack by now. Slack is what we use here. Yeah, this is Slack. This is it. The Slack was invented to help businesses and help people in organizations to communicate in the way we're using it here. See, I can send a message and you guys can see it, you can reply, and it works in the same way as most communication platforms. The likes of WhatsApp works the same way. In WhatsApp, we have a group that we communicate and everyone can see it. So to facilitate conversations and communications. And we have banks. Banks, how do they work? They store your money. They allow you to, feel protected and safe. So you can put your money in there and you can use it as and when you need to. You can withdraw the money. We have TikTok. How does that work? You can share posts with your friends. You can watch other people's stories. We have Instagram. You can post pictures of yourself. You can share videos. You can call people. You can send messages. So these are all software-driven products. Yeah, and we have Canva. You can edit images. You can do so much more. And we have Dropbox. You can share files. So I've put these examples here just to illustrate what we mean by software-related product management. We have Spotify. You can listen to music. You can watch music videos where available. So it's a range of things. You have YouTube. You can go in there and watch videos, movies. So these are software-related products. So when I say product, what I want you to do is to think of brands like these companies. Yeah, there's so many more. There are almost millions more. But this is just, I chose these examples because I know they will resonate with you and you you will understand better. So I've chosen these, but there's so many more. And so when I say product, I want you to think of these. You can equally, as I said last week, you can equally call these platforms or systems, whichever slips out of your tongue best, use that. It means the same thing. Product, systems, platform means exactly the same thing. This is slight nuance, but moreover, it means it's equally as communicatable. And then here I've gone on to sort of share some more insights on these products with some more description. So we're currently using Google Meet. Another product that does the same thing is known as Zoom. Zoom does exactly the same thing as Google Meet. It's a video conferencing software that supports online meetings, webinars, and virtual collaborations, which is what we're doing. So, and something we'll use very soon is Jira, a project management tool. Is primarily for being able to communicate with a product development team. So you go in there, you create a bunch of tickets. You can call them tickets or issues or business requirements, and then everyone in the development team can seek to understand and then proceed to working on these requirements. And then Microsoft Office 365, which you all should be familiar with. It essentially is a suite of applications. So you would have heard of something like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and Outlook. All of these are provided in a suite of applications. There's so much more, but essentially they allow you to do like what I'm doing here. I've created a presentation. I could have equally done that on Microsoft PowerPoint. So this is a Google's version of it. And yeah, there is Dropbox, which I mentioned. It's just a cloud storage service that allows you to essentially share files with people and just also store for yourself. You can also save files there for yourself if you're running out of storage on your machine or your phone. You can open a Dropbox account. I think they give you 2 gigs of data, so you can store some of your files there. Okay, so I'm going to share this slide after the class, so you can look more into these. You can equally just go on Google, search for Dropbox, and get to understand more. Right. So on to today's class. The agenda for today is let's look at the importance of understanding customer needs in product management. So we'll look at overview of what will be covered, which will be some of the methods, the tools, and best practices for going on to understand customer needs in product management. So customer needs vary. All customers want different things. So we need to always seek to understand what each segment or each classification of user, what their needs are. And by consistently doing this, it allows us to serve our customers in a way that meets them where they are. And ultimately, the goal of seeking to understand your customers is so you can design the best products that will solve their problems. So, we begin. Why does identifying customer need, why is that crucial? Why does it even matter for us to focus on trying to understand what customers want? Why don't we just do what we think they want and then get them to, then try to sell it to them, get them to like it? Why do we need to focus on, going to meet them, do our research, try to understand what they want, and then produce something that would solve their problems? So these are some of the reasons why we try to understand what customers' needs are. The first thing is we do this, we try to understand customer needs in order to align the product features that we would have designed with market demands. So we do this to align product features with market demands. All this means is if we look at WhatsApp, for example, and we see that most features there, the feature to be able to make a phone call, the feature to be able to send a message, the feature to be able to send a picture or an image, all of these are in alignment with what we users or customers want. We want an application that allows us to do these things. Because if we are unable to make a call, then we may go use another product that allows us to do so. So, as a product manager, you need to always think, are the needs of customers being met? Is our product in alignment with what they want? And so, by WhatsApp offering these features, it keeps us happy. It keeps us coming back to use WhatsApp. And it prevents us from going to use competitors' products. If WhatsApp doesn't allow me to, for example, make a phone call, I might suddenly start using other applications. And I think over the past 2 years now, they launched a new feature, which is for you to be able to add stories on WhatsApp. That never used to be a feature. And they observed that that's where the market was headed. That's where the trends were headed. And how did they know this? They looked across Snapchat, they looked across WhatsApp, they looked across Instagram, they looked across Facebook, and they saw that all of these applications, they had the ability to post stories. And WhatsApp didn't do that. And then they realized that they had to advance their platform, they had to advance the app. And now, over the past 2 years, people have been able to post stories on WhatsApp. And so that's how you align product features with market demand. What are people demanding? So you try to align that to ensure that they're happy. And by doing this, you increase customer satisfaction and loyalty because people won't tend to go use alternative products. They will stick with you. And it also reduces the risk of product failure because if product failure here just means in 10 years' time, will WhatsApp still be around? Because if the likes of TikTok continues to grow and maybe it introduces features where you can send messages in a way that it doesn't feel like a social media, but it feels like a personal communication platform. And then suddenly WhatsApp, people may think, why do I need to use WhatsApp? So you need to always think of how you are meeting market demands. Market being, the entire market scope, to ensure that you're not just meeting a few people's needs, but you try to meet as many people's needs as possible. But of course, you need to be targeted. You may say our product is only catered to young people, and that's it, and that's fine. You then need to make sure that you have enough market size for you to be able to make your profit, and then you can then serve your customers in the best way possible. So if you think of profit, you have revenue minus your expenses gives you profit. So if your revenue is not high enough, then you're not going to make profit. Or if your revenue is high and your expenses are quite high, then your profit is going to be very marginal. It's not going to be high enough. So these are things as a PM that you don't get to get involved in, in thinking revenue and profit, but you do so in a minimal way, which is trying to serve as many customers as possible, and that has a direct impact on revenue and profit. And just to point out the last thing there, which is prioritizing development efforts. if you don't know what customers want, then you can prioritize the wrong things. That means you can choose to implement something that doesn't really serve value to customers. So understanding customer needs allows you to prioritize the most important things to customers, and then you build those things. You go into development and go ahead to build them and release. So that's why it's really important to understand customer needs. Always, as a PM, the number one question you need to be asking yourself is, what are my customer needs? If any company hires you to join them, the first thing you should be trying to understand is, what are the customer needs of this business? What do customer need? What do customer want from this company? And if you join, for example, WhatsApp to be a product manager, you should be thinking, what are customers trying to get out of WhatsApp? And if you've joined, let's say, Google, it'd be exactly the same question. So any company you join, number one question is, how am I trying to help customers, and what do they need from this company? And then as you continue to learn about the company, you get to understand, and you get to truly try to come up with ways to resolve customer needs. So you've heard customer needs. Customer needs, what does that mean? So these are the types of customer needs. There are explicit needs, implicit needs, and latent needs. So we'll look at explicit needs. So these are needs that customers have explicitly told us. That means they've vocalized them. They've told us, that these are the needs that they have. These are the problems that they face. So from our perspective, it should be, how can we help customers resolve explicit needs? And explicit needs usually come in various forms. It could be where customers explicitly communicate their dissatisfaction. Let's say you go to a bank and you tell them that you're unsatisfied with how they handle maybe your queries or how they handle your concerns. In other ways, it could be a company gives you a form or a survey for you to tell them what your needs are. Those are explicit because you're telling them. And these are different from implicit. Implicit needs are more, they're not directly stated. You can observe them, or they're implied from a customer behavior. You look at a customer, you look at how they think, and that leads you to make assumption. Okay, so these are implied. You explicate a meaning from a communication with a customer. So, for example, you're a PM at WhatsApp and you've been involved in an interview to understand customer pain points, and as a result, as the customer tells you their needs, you also observe other needs that are not being stated. And as a result, that's known as implicit. You're listening to what's being said, but you're also hearing things that are not being said, and you're capturing those down. So those are implicit, implied. And then latent needs. Latent needs are essentially what customers are unaware that they're unaware needs. Customers don't know that they have these needs until you show them a solution. Then suddenly they can think of so many ways to use it. Initially, when Facebook was first introduced to the world, it was meant to be a communication platform for students at a university. Literally, that's what it was meant to be. And then suddenly the whole world realized that they could use a platform that enabled them to communicate with their relatives or friends from different parts of the world. Suddenly, a platform that allows them to, upload their pictures or have conversations in different groups, meet new people. This was the latent need. People weren't aware of this until they saw a solution. And this is the approach that's commonly used by Apple and Microsoft to foster a culture of innovation. Innovation just means bringing out things that solve problems in a unique and new way that customers didn't think they had, didn't think they need. And this is exactly how Apple came to be. Prior to Apple launching the iPhone, phones were not touchscreen. I mean, you couldn't imagine now having a phone that is not a touchscreen. Now everyone prefers, touchscreen devices. Just give me a minute, guys. Someone is interrupting, wants to join. So you think of Apple and Microsoft, with their advancement in not just software related products, but just innovation in general. Think of most devices. All of these devices, they're very prominent in helping customers to stay connected with loved ones or family. And as I was saying, think of an iPhone today. It's seamless. It's slick. Let me show you an example. So compare this to what we used to have, which was Nokia phones. Yeah. Prior to you can see why like innovation just became so prominent. I remember using phones like this in 2004, 2005. These were the prominent phones. Buttons compared to now, you get more phones like these, with even a touchscreen in the front. So you can see these phones are they're far more prevalent in the West, in Western countries. In some African regions, you get phones like these. But soon enough, they too would advance to these touchscreens. So that's innovation. Customers initially were okay with these. They had no idea that, if someone gave them a touchscreen phone, they would prefer that to this because it just didn't make sense. How would you type? These were the questions that, they would probably had at that time. How will you type? And how do you unlock the screen? But there's so many ways you can do all of these things. So you can see the advancement, that once you go in that journey of innovation, that you're ultimately going to unlock new things that customers would like. Customers didn't even think they would like that, but they do. So you can see those are known as latent needs. So these are needs of customers that they themselves are unaware. Sorry, I think your mic, maybe you can type your questions. You can type your question if you're unable to speak it. And then Godfrey will read it to me. Any question? Okay, moving on. Methods to identify customer needs. There are several methods we can use to identify customer needs to find out what customers want. Let's say you want to start a business, any business in general. You want to start a business of selling clothes. You don't just go buy clothes and start selling. You need to first find out, what type of clothes do customers want to be buying in the region that I'm trying to establish the business. If you're trying to establish a business in a city, then you need to find out in that city what type of clothes your customers need. And then once you understand that, then you can, go on to serve customers. So it works in the same way in tech. In tech, you also need to understand what customer needs are. And to do that, you would use these 6 approaches. You use any or a combination that you prefer. So there are surveys and questionnaires That's one. That's one method. There's also interviews. So in interviews, essentially you sit down with one person or two people and try to have a conversation with them. So there are moderated interviews. So essentially you get to have a conversation with them, and you get responses that will then enable you to understand what customer needs are, because they'll be telling you. And then whilst you're in that interview, remember there's going to be the implicit needs and the explicit needs. So implicit is what they're telling you, and then there are also those implied needs, things that are unsaid, but you can infer from what they're saying. You can, sort of get the understanding without them having to tell you exactly what it is. And then there are also focus groups. So focus groups, essentially you have a bunch of people and you have a conversation with a group, and these are useful for deeper insights. If you're having an interview with one-to-one with one person, the quality of that is different. The quality of focus groups is that more people can either agree on ideas or they can disagree, which again is meaningful, is helpful. It helps you to quickly understand at a depth of what customers' needs actually are. And then there are observational studies. Essentially, you observe people. For you to sometimes do an interview or focus group, sometimes you don't get as much insight. But when you observe someone doing something, let's say someone observes me a day in my life, they will learn so much about me than having an interview. Give me a minute, guys. Someone is trying to join again. Okay. So, trying to, so observational, again, that's crucial. And if someone observes me at work in a day, you get to really understand what I do, how I do it, and any tools and frameworks, any ideas, all of that is very meaningful. And then there are also, and we'll move on to customer feedback and reviews. Most of us in here would have given feedback before. We would have also done reviews. So all of these are useful. As a PM, you can use these to understand the mindset of customers. If someone gives you a review, you sit down, you try to understand it, you study reviews. In today's world, there are so many ways for you to obtain reviews and feedback. And get that review. As a PM, you can try to understand where our customers are having pains, and where do we need to focus. If there are multiple areas, where is more imminent, where is more important to zone in immediately and try to tackle. And then there is also using analytics and data mining. So here is just trying to understand what customers are actually using. So with data, let's say how many customers are having problem at a particular web page, or how many customers are having problems with certain features, and then that gives you an idea. If 2,000 people are having a problem with a feature, then that tells you it might be important for you to solve that. So using data to guide what you do. Okay, is that a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a question that was just up now.
Okay.
It's asking what method will a PM use to identify latent needs?
For latent needs, essentially, this is a combination of things. So latent needs, Apple, for example, I shared this, was this Nokia, for instance. So in 2004, 2005, these were the most common, advancement. These were the advanced phone. Can you believe? If you had this as opposed to this Nokia, so if you had a Nokia 3310, you had an old version. If you had a Nokia 105, this was seen as innovative. This was seen as being, something quite, uh, advanced. And and so for Apple now to think outside of the box and say, no, this is not innovate. This is not innovation at all. This is just old. We see a world where customers won't need buttons on their phone. We see a world where customers would essentially just have a whole screen, a big screen, and they can do so much on their phone. A phone can be as powerful as a laptop. That's the world that we see. That's visioning. That's dreaming. So that's what they did. And then behold, customers were used to this, but when customers saw this, they loved it. So customers had no idea that this is what they actually want as opposed to this. So to your question, how do you identify latent needs? You identify latent needs by being innovative, by pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So if this is what's possible, you think, no, we can do better than this. So you use the guides of innovation. And in tech, how we do that is we do a collaboration between UX, UI, and product managers. So as a product manager, I can state a need that we need, for example, we need to be able to allow people to speak into a phone, and it captures it captures my requirements. So, and UX can then go on and try to understand what that journey might look like. So essentially, it's not a product manager. It doesn't answer all the questions. As a PM, I want everyone today to get this. This is probably the most important point I will make today. As a PM, we don't engage in being a hero. We bring everybody together. That means I bring my UX and UI people. I bring the software engineers. I bring the QA people. I bring the technical architects. Bring everyone in a room so we can think together. That's the biggest role that I can do as a PM. So as a PM, to sit there and say, I need to identify the latent needs because I know it all. No, that mindset should never ever be what you go to. It should be, how do I bring everybody together so we can identify what our explicit needs are, what our implicit needs are, and what our latent needs are. So that's critical. And how we do that is we use the collection of a team. And as a PM, I think, I care about customer needs, so I try to understand what they are. And as we're saying, one of the ways to do that, it's either of these. So being able to design surveys and questionnaires, being able to conduct interviews, being able to facilitate focus groups, being able to observe. These are known as observational studies. So there will be tons of documentations, or there will be me simply observing a customer, a life in the day of a customer to understand how they do, how they achieve certain things in their life. And that gives me data, that gives me insight into a problem that they may have, and ultimately enables me to be able to serve these customers. And then we move on to now to explore a little bit further surveys and questionnaires. How do we design surveys? How do we go about doing this? This is probably one of the easiest things to get customer needs that you can do, to design a survey. And it's really, I think there's one here that I did. So this is it. You should just put a bunch of questions. So you have an idea for which you want. You list the questions, and then of course you provide a way for customers to answer. So in this question, for example, select all that apply. Whereas in some questions, it may be just select one. It may be, for instance, how often do you use your smart home assistant? This is just one. So you select the one that apply once a day. Is it a few times a week? Is it rarely? Is it multiple times a day? So that's an example of a survey. I hope everyone here would have done a survey in the past. If you haven't, that's something to look into. And at the end of the class, there will be a homework for you to do a survey, so you would get a hang of it. The advantages of doing a survey is that it has a wide reach. You can send it to multiple people to complete, and you get a large quantitative data. So it allows you to get a way to get more responses. If you get for up to, for example, let's say 200 people completing your survey, that's a lot of data, and that helps you to be able to make conclusions on some of the problems that you will identify in the data returned in the sample responses. And the best practice with this is to always ask clear questions, concise format, and sometimes you may need to pay people to participate in your surveys. For example, in terms of clear questions, you can see this question: how often do you use your smart home assistant? So it's very clear, it's easy to understand, it's not convoluted, it's very easy. So keep your questions very, very clear, and the format concise. Question and a bunch of responses. So question and then multiple choice for customers to select. And you can there are several tools in the market that you can use. If you simply go on Google, sorry, could you mute yourself, please? Okay, if you simply go on google.com, and then in there you can search for JotForm, for example. Yeah. So whenever you want to search for anything, Google is a great platform. You can go on it, search for either of. So you can see here there's SurveyMonkey, JotForm, Typeform, Google Forms. All of these are platforms that allow you to create surveys. So JotForm, that's the one I search for. And if I go on there, this is what I find. Like, it's completely free. Of course, it's free for up to a certain limit. So I can sign up and create a survey for the purpose of our class. We can do a survey on Google Docs, so you don't worry, you don't have to sign up there. But if you want to get the best practice by getting hands-on practice, then definitely I would recommend using either of these, or you can use Google Forms. This is free as well. Google Forms, Tabface. This is also free, so you can come here and create a free account, and then create a sample form, create a sample survey. Another one is Google Forms. So simply come here, you can see create the form, try forms, and get the responses, and that's it. So here are the tools. If you want to practice, you can use either of these. So the exercise at the end You can use either of these tools, or you can use Microsoft Word. So really, I'll leave it up to you, the choice, whichever one you prefer to use. And then interviews. Interviews, like as shown in the image, it could be one-on-one. So this could be you, and that could be someone you're trying to understand what their needs are. So you're the PM for WhatsApp, and you're trying to understand how to enhance the messaging function in WhatsApp. You're finding that customers are complaining that messaging is not as good as it is on Instagram, and you're trying to advance that. You're trying to make it better for them. So one way to do that is to conduct interviews. So you find a collection of customers, you recruit customers that are willing to help you. So you sit with them, either in a one-to-one or in group interviews. And in those interviews, you would effectively pose a question. You ask them a question, and preferably an open-ended question. And then once you ask the question, you then engage in active listening, to listen to the problem they're facing. As they explain it, if there are any follow-up questions that may be required to get more clarification, you ask. So interviews are just a way for you to have a conversation, to have a one-to-one conversation, get to know your customers more, just understand what their pain points are and how you can help them continue to be customers in your company. And these are great for gaining in-depth insights. It gives you a qualitative data approach, and all that means is it's more text driven. It's just a conversation that you summarize, and then you get to make inferences on what the problems might be based on what customers have said. And then we have focus groups. Focus groups are critical, as shown in this image. You can see a bunch of people sitting around a table, and with them, you should get to understand group dynamics. Like how does a certain group react to certain problems, and what is the mindset. Again, in all of these approaches, you're always trying to understand user mindset, and to understand the diverse perspective. Different people think differently, and so you try to understand those thinking. And for this, you would need to be very skilled in moderating, in trying to get as many people speaking as possible. And so, active listening is critical, and trying to draw people in, to ensure the conversation is flowing, and diverse participants and the diverse ideas are being heard. So different groups of people being able to share their opinions and experiences in a structured manner. So your role there as a PM, if you ever have to facilitate a focus group session, is just to ensure that you can get as many people speaking on what the purpose is as much as possible. So essentially organizing a session with target customer segments, and then giving them the floor to do the speaking. So you introduce the session, and then you get them to share their thoughts, to share their minds on what the session is about as much as possible. And then you pose questions, open-ended questions, and then people around the room can discuss and tell you the experiences on the topic that you've posted. Any question on this?
Yes, Darlington, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
In the focus group, is there any maximum number of participants, or it can be maybe 20, 50? Is there any number?
Great question. In terms of numbers, this is sometimes you find that it varies. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 20, but it's good to keep it up to 30. So maximum 30, minimum 5, then you can get diverse views across the room. Let's say you post a question, how many of you, what are your thoughts on the new WhatsApp feature that allows you to edit your message? People around the room may have different feelings and opinions on that. So if you, as a product manager at WhatsApp, you want to advance that feature, you want to make it in a way that all customers will be happy, which is very difficult to do because not everyone will ever be happy about a single feature. So you have to compromise and serve the most. Let's say you had 10 customers and 3 are unhappy with the ability to edit a message on WhatsApp. You have to say, fine, we're okay with that. At least 7 are happy, 3 are unhappy. That's fine. That's good to know. So as a PM, gaining that knowledge is very useful to you because it keeps you optimizing. And if you did a focus group and then 3 people were consistently arguing that the ability to edit a message on WhatsApp, it's not good. It's bad for privacy. People can change messages, and it's not so good. Then you can, as a PM, you can say, well, 3 people, it seems their minds are made up. They hate this feature, and then 7 people, they seem very happy with this feature. They love it. So as a PM, you can get those insights and then document it and keep it. And then that gives you a rationalization and justification for why WhatsApp should continue to maintain the feature of editing. So, very important. Okay, and then move on to observational studies. In observational studies, here it's really unbiased. The key thing is that it's an unbiased data. It's real world insights. Let's say WhatsApp wants to observe how a group of customers use WhatsApp in their life. So they take 5 people and put them in a room, and they take one of us, for example, they take me to observe them, to watch them how they use WhatsApp in their life daily. So I spend an entire day watching them, 9 to 5 p.m. in the evening. I watch how they go on WhatsApp to maybe send a message. I watch how they go on WhatsApp to maybe make a phone call. I watch how they go on WhatsApp to maybe, watch a story, watch someone's status. So this is observational studies. I am observing how people are using our product, and I see how they use it. I'm writing down my observations. Anything I notice, I write it down. So this is a non-intrusive observation, detailed note-taking. So I'm essentially analyzing people's behavior and how they use WhatsApp for the whole day. And at the end of the day, I can then make my observations, write my conclusions. What do I observe? Did I see opportunities where WhatsApp could better advance and serve them? Are there opportunities for advancement so we can better serve these customers to help them use WhatsApp even better? So I make my observations. This is known as observational studies. It's not based on something I read, it's based on what I observe with my eyes. So it's real world insights. And effectively, when you do this, it can be very helpful to customers because you can identify even latent needs that customers didn't know they had, but by observing them, you can find ways to solve problems that customers didn't even know they had. You can also observe, like essentially the existing needs of customers that they know they have, and then you can see how they go around those needs to do what they need to do. Sometimes you have a problem that blocks you, but then you find a way around it. So you can see those. You can observe how customers get get around problems in order to resolve things. And observational studies are done. They're done really well when you sit a group of customers down and keep the time scale limited, not something you do for like months or a whole week. You can say for a whole day, and of course you will have to pay people for them to allow you to do these observations, and you need their permission. So it's not something you hide. You're simply there. You just watch them, and they have to be okay with that. And you can, again, with this, you can do as many people as possible, but as many people as possible for the number of observers to, of course, go ahead and observe. If you bring 100 people and you only have 2 people observing, then that's not really a good observational study. So you need to have a good ratio of the people you're trying to observe versus the people that are doing observation. So you need to use your judgment to think of what's the best way to do an observational study. Okay, and customer feedback and reviews. So in today's world, there's several platforms. If you go on Google Play Store, most apps, if not all, have reviews, and those reviews, that's feedback. So as a product manager, if you want to understand what people think about your product and you have an app, you can simply go on Play Store or on the Apple Play Store and simply read those reviews. It gives you an idea of what customers think about your product. So the App Store it's somewhere that most research and development colleagues, that's where they usually go. That's their first point of contact. They get direct user opinions, real world users feedback. That users feedback is crucial. If you want to be better, then that's something that has to be done. And it's one of the best feedback in terms of optimizing your product, because it allows you to see how great people are saying your product is or how terrible they're saying your product is. So it's really best practice for you to be able to, as a PM, to encourage people, encourage your colleagues in the company, whether from the marketing department, to observe online reviews. What are people saying about your product on social media? So the likes of Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, what are people saying? And also, if you have a customer complaint line, how many people are calling to complain? What exactly are they saying? All of those are crucial to really understand how you can optimize your product. And then going on the likes in today's world, you see, if you go on Amazon, you see lots of, Amazon, it's an e-commerce shop. There's lots of feedback, and reviewing those feedback really helps to understand how you can help customers to better use your platform even better. On WhatsApp is the same. WhatsApp has tons of complaints. Nowadays, there's a new scam that's going around, which is people stealing your WhatsApp, hijacking your WhatsApp number, and sending people messages, to send for them to send you money, or for them to send you money. But that's something that happens when your WhatsApp has been hijacked. So there are lots of customers whom this has happened to, and they're so angry and they're making lots of complaints now. So that's a feature that WhatsApp needs to, get a grip on and ensure that customer security is the number one thing for them So they will need to advance their platform, make it more secure, because right now it's not too secure. That people can hijack your WhatsApp and terrorize your contacts with messages and hounding them for money. So that's not great. So that's something WhatsApp needs to improve. How can they improve this? They can read the reviews, because customers are complaining bitterly. So that's how reviews and feedback can be used in terms of understanding customer needs. And then the last one is data analytics and data mining. Here it's essentially going on a platform like Google Analytics in there. So for every time you launch WhatsApp has a capture. People in WhatsApp, they know how many times the application WhatsApp was open in a day. They know that because they have a central platform that reports back everything that is done. So every time you send a message, WhatsApp knows. Every time you delete a message, WhatsApp knows. Every time you make a phone call, WhatsApp knows. So these are all, trends. These are all data. And WhatsApp has the right, because you're using their platform, so they have the right to get these data, these feedback, and they use that to optimize. WhatsApp can decide to optimize their core feature. So optimize as in, so it used to be that whenever you made a call on WhatsApp, you couldn't message on WhatsApp. Then they found that people were complaining that if I was in a call, I couldn't now message someone else. I had to stay on the call until I was done. So WhatsApp quickly resolved that. They made it possible for everyone to be able to be on the call on WhatsApp and also still be messaging other friends or other families. And that's an advancement in the future. And how do they know this? They will see, they can go on their data analytics on their backboard and see the number of people that make calls. And if the number of people that make calls is high enough to justify them resolving that problem, they will then go ahead and resolve it. So you go by how many people does a problem affect. If the problem affects enough people, then that's something that we should solve. If the problem doesn't affect enough people, then that's something we can deprioritize, as in we can keep it for later down the line when it affects enough people. So this allows us to focus on imminent problems that are immediately important and need to be resolved. So this is known as being a data-driven decision-making approach. So you're using data to allow you to justify making decisions and to justify serving customers in the best way possible. So if you're ever in a position to make these kinds of decisions, you would see that you will always be thinking data, data, data. How many people does a problem affect? And how can I help the group of customers to continue to resolve their problems faster or in a way that allows the company to continue to stay ahead of the competition. And so you use data to really support you in identifying areas where majority of customers are having issues. And so just one last thing to add. I mentioned earlier that everything you do on WhatsApp has an idea of the number of people that do it. WhatsApp can tell you the number of messages that are sent in a day, because they have a tracking tool that tells them. They can tell you yesterday, for example, about 5 billion messages were sent on WhatsApp. They can tell you such things. They can also tell you about 200,000 images were sent yesterday. So those kinds of assertions and conclusions can be made on about WhatsApp using their data analytics tool. So that's how critical it is to use data to solve problems if you have access to such information, you can solve pretty much any problem because you know the impact on customers that it has. Okay, tools for identifying customer needs. So we mentioned surveys. If you want to do a survey, there is Google Forms or SurveyMonkey. That's another platform. SurveyMonkey, let me show you what that looks like. SurveyMonkey is this one. It's again free. You just sign up for free and then you go ahead and create a survey. So relatively straightforward. And in terms of interviewing, there is Zoom. There's Google Meet that we're using right now. So if I wanted to do an interview, I can use Google Meet and tell someone and then proceed. I'll ask them a question. How are you today? They'll say, I'm fine. And then we'll just continue from there. That's our interview. We can use Skype. We can use Zoom. In terms of transcription, there is this tool, Alter. It's free. Essentially, it produces. So in terms of me taking notes, you can see here, never take meeting notes again. Alter gets a transcript. So it's an automated summaries of anything that I say. Auto captures it and translates it into a note. So it's free as well. You can try it. And
also know that it has a limit.
And there is analytics tools. Google Analytics. So this you won't get to use because you need to. It needs to be linked to a company in order for you to get feedback. But it's just for your understanding that analytics tools, they give you data about customer usage. As I said earlier about WhatsApp, how do customers use WhatsApp? How many messages are sent in a day? All of those types of things that you can do on WhatsApp, WhatsApp can get the data. Mixpanel, Tableau, all of these are, they're critical applications for understanding customer needs because you can see what customers are using the most, what they're using the least, and then you can focus your attention on what they use the most and you can optimize that. And that's what leads to the identification of latent needs as well as implicit needs, as well as those needs that are directly stated to you. And then feedback platforms, there is User Voice, Medallia. These tools are very critical for obtaining feedback from users. Again, all of these tools are just for your awareness, and some you can try them out, but just so you have the idea of what they do. But some of them you would only get to see them at use when you join a company. But something like User Voice, it's an amazing platform that allows you to track customer satisfaction right from your product conception all through to delivery. And it's one of those platforms that you would get to use whilst in a company. And don't worry, like all platforms today, they're intuitive, which means you don't need much training, if at all any, that you would get to use as you join. Playing around with it, less than an hour, you have a grasp of how to use it. Best practices for identifying customer needs. First thing, which is to be customer centric. It just means to care about your customers, wanting to solve customer problems. What are the needs of customers? What do they need? That should be your obsession. Be obsessed with helping customers. Because if you're obsessed, then that's the foundation that you need to be able to resolve any problems that customers may have. And the next one is to use a mix of qualitative and quantitative. Now, what does that mean? Qualitative is surveys and questionnaires. That's quantitative. Qualitative is interviews, focus groups. That's qualitative. So quantitative, quant means number. So anything that allows you to make conclusions that is numerative, so numbers related, then that's quantitative. And qualitative, it just means making deeper in research that allows you to dive in deeper on insights, on qualitative insights. So those would be interviews. And then things like analytics and data mining, this is quantitative because it's numbers related. Customer feedback and reviews, if you had to guess, I hope you would have guessed that this would be qualitative because you're reading people's text related, people's text and feedback and reviews. So that leads you to observational studies. You're observing people, observing people in their life to understand how a problem impacts them. So that is qualitative. So in this, then, we only have two quantitative. That's surveys and questionnaires, and analytics and data mining. Those are the only quantitative. And these are qualitative. Quantitative, qualitative. Quantitative, numbers based. Qualitative, text related. So it's good to have a mixture. So you can do surveys and interviews, or surveys and focus groups. So it's good to have that mix because you get diverse types of feedback. Customers may answer your surveys just really quickly and maybe dishonest, but in interviews, it's highly unlikely that they may be dishonest. In focus groups as well, in surveys, they may just not have enough time, so they quickly just fill the form and don't really pay attention to the questions. Whereas in interviews and focus groups, these are deeper insights. Customers can give you a detailed expression of the problems that they face. And then you validate findings with multiple sources. As I said, if customers are simply filling your surveys really quickly without paying much attention, then if you do a focus group or an interview, you can validate. You can just, validate. You can check to ensure that those responses you can check whether it's true or it isn't. And that's why using multiple sources is a good idea. And then, as usual, continuously gather and update customer insights. So Facebook, they always do research. WhatsApp, they always do research. All companies are always interested in continuously understanding the needs of their customers, because failure to do so is essentially your business going out of business, and no company wants to go out of business. So they continuously always seek to understand your customers, because as they do so, it helps them to remain focused and get to a level where they solve their customer problems better than any competitor. If I mentioned Apple, they do this again, continuously doing research. That's why every year they release a new version of a phone, because they've done research, they've understood the flaws of a previous iPhone, and in the latest iPhone there will be an advancement of that flaw. And so continuously doing research to understand what customers' thoughts are and what are the insights. So we're going to do a case study to understand how essentially a customer needs identification has been done by a platform, so a real world product which we use. So brilliant. We use Slack. I would hope everyone has created an account now and knows what Slack is. This is Slack. So we're going to understand how Slack came to be. So we'll see a brief overview, and then we'll see the methods that they use to identify customer needs and what were their outcomes and impact on the problem, on the product. So to that, we go on to Miro. So Slack, as you know, is a leading collaboration and messaging platform, which is widely used by lots of organizations in tech to improve and streamline the communication across different functions and departments in a business. So if you can see here that there are several people in Slack, and all of these people have joined Slack, and then there are also several channels. So this is what happens. This is how a company can streamline those channels and have different people in different groups, and it really helps because it keeps conversation relevant, and everyone therefore can understand what they need to do. And in terms of speaking with your colleagues, like if you send me a question here, I will see it. I would see it. If you want to test it, test it. Send me a message on Slack and you see that I will get it. So imagine using this for your company. You join WhatsApp, they also have Slack. This is how they communicate. This is how your boss will send you instructions. So it's really good in that regard. So Slack identified customer needs and translated them into actionable business and product requirements, leading to its widespread adoption and success in the world. So how did they do that? They used surveys and questionnaires. Slack conducted surveys to gather feedback from users about their communication challenges and needs in the workplace. So prior to Slack, people, had to work in person, and more often you will get a phone call or you will get an email. Emails were the most commonly used forms of communication, and if you've used an email before, you will see that on emails there are several things that can go wrong, and by that I simply mean on an email you can send an email, and if you have tons of email, that can be stressful. Whereas on Slack, if you wanted to reach out to someone, you can quickly just drop them a message and they reply, and that's it. So that makes it streamlines the communication. It makes it simpler. It makes it easier. So Slack used surveys and questionnaires to try to understand that, to gather user feedback on their communication challenges. That's the key thing, and needs in the workplace. And then in interviews, they also conducted in-depth interviews with teams across different industries to understand their workflow and communication pain points. So customers that we're having, essentially customers or companies or teams or people, however you want to describe them, these are people that we're having challenges with regards to having conversations across their teams. And so Slack brought a group of them together and conducted interviews. They also did customer feedback and reviews. So Slack analyzed user feedback from app reviews. So people that download Slack will go on their App Store or Play Store and leave reviews. So Slack analyzed these reviews. They also analyzed customer support tickets, customers that will call them and complain. They also analyzed social media. They went on their social media and they got feedback. They analyzed it to gather insights on user experiences and expectations. And then they also did observational studies. They observed how teams use existing communication tools, and identify gaps and inefficiencies in their workflows. So they analyze existing, so what previous platforms were available that people were using. Slack, whichever ones companies were using, Slack went in and observed people using them. And then they identified gaps that these applications were lacking. And then they saw ways that they did things that were not so great. And then they decided that, they made their notes, or, their observations, they took notes, and they decided to incorporate those observations into their application. So what you see here today is a result of that. And then they also, in terms of customer needs, there were explicit needs. So what were the explicit needs? A centralized platform for team communication. Ta-da, here you have it, Slack. Real-time messaging with colleagues. If I send Grace, a message now, she will get it. That's real-time. It goes in immediately. The same way you get real-time messaging on WhatsApp. If someone sends you a message right now, you will get it right there and then. Slack is the same. I can send a file. This is what I did here. I share files with you all the time. So file sharing and collaboration. And what were the implicit needs? Integration with other tools and services used by teams. Google Drive, Dropbox, Trello. That is true. So I can add other applications to Slack. This is one. I can add Canvas to this, and that allows me to add so many more other applications. So that integration, that was an implicit need. That's something that could be explicitly taken from listening to what customers were saying. And then searchable message history. I can search for past messages. Again, that was also implicit. And then what were the latent needs? Customizable notification to manage information overload. That is true. I can put my notification. I can set my notification. I think it's okay. I can set my notification somewhere here. This is status, but status is linked to notification. I can set my notification so I don't get too many messages, because that can lead to overload. Then I now have so many messages to respond to. That can be a little bit distracting. So that's something that Slack has done. And then a fun and engaging user interface to improve user adoption and satisfaction. Again, another latent need that came from essentially, the user experience, UX, having guys be able to enjoy the interface or enjoy the navigation. Interface is quite nice. I can do so many things on Slack. So again, good on them. And then translations of needs into business and product requirements. So that's something that we need to do. We'll get onto this at some point, either next week or the subsequent week. But identifying customer needs is one thing, is one part of the equation. The other one is taking those customer needs and turning them into business and product requirements. So you can see here, this is a customer need, and this is a business need. This is a product requirement. So the business need is as a customer, I want a centralized platform for team communication. Okay, what is a business requirement? A streamline and centralize all team communication. So ensure that all people within the team can communicate. And then a product requirement is develop a messaging platform that supports channels for different teams and projects. Are these all different? It's just how they're written, but on the underlying need behind all of them is exactly the same thing. Platform, platform, platform. Yeah, centralized platform, centralized platform, centralized platform. It's exactly the same thing. It's just you're writing it from the eyes of the different views. From the eyes of the customer, this is how they see it. From the eyes of a business, this is how they see it. From the eyes of a product, this is how it can be viewed. And then real-time messaging, again, the same thing. Enable instant communication to improve team collaboration. And then in the eyes of a product, you view this as being implement real-time messaging with instant notification. So here it's a bit more explicit because it's been introduced the idea of notifications. Whereas from a customer, all they want is just real-time messaging. But now in terms of product, we think how do we advance it? Not just give customers what they want, but do a bit more. So we say, yes, we'll enable real-time notification, real-time messaging, but we'll also enable instant notifications for you to know when you've been messaged. And then, so the file sharing and collaboration, integration with other tools. So all of these were, once they did all of these surveys, interviews, that's where they identified what their needs were, and then they turned those needs into product requirements. So you do your research, your interviews, surveys, and then you turn those into product requirements. So you can see that's phase 1, and then this here is phase 2. And once they did that, they then went on to actually building the implementation, which was a centralized platform. You can see it here. So they've done it. It has real-time messaging. Yes, I send a message, you receive it immediately. File sharing. Yes, you can see I share files all the time with the integrations with Google Drive. Yes, it does. Each time I share a Google Drive file, other people you can either go on Google Drive and access it. I can link that here. So all of these things are available. So what do we have? What is the result? The result is Slack has a high adoption amongst businesses, specifically amongst technological businesses. So across various industries. And it's a key driver of why companies like Microsoft are pushing Teams. Teams is another version, is another type of product. Microsoft Teams, it works in the same way as Slack. They're trying to compete with Slack, but you can see customer satisfaction is very high. Market growth, Slack grew a lot, especially during COVID, because teams had to rely on it for communication. People that were not going to the office had to now rely heavily on Slack, and likes of Zoom and Google Meet, all of these platforms grew as a result. So a platform still continuously tries to innovate and add new features to allow them to resolve customer feedback and customer pain points. So by thoroughly understanding your customer pain points, you can fully develop products that they like and products that solve their problems. And so we've seen here how Slack understood the problem of communication in the work environment, and they sought out to resolve that problem, and they produced Slack as a platform. And we've just seen the approaches that they took. I will share this with everyone for you to study it in depth so you can understand. Today they went through a process, and all the way to the end is a streamlined process. And they went through that, and they identified the needs, and they built the platform. And today you have the product that you and I are using, Slack. So what we learn here, you can see how it was applied by a real world company, and we've seen the output. The output is the product here, and they make a lot of money because they've solved a problem that people care about. That's the key. Any question on that? Great. Not to worry. I will share all of these with you so you can study in depth during the coming week, just for you to review and solidify your understanding. And then if you have any questions, as I always say, just drop them on Slack to me and we'll try to, get back to you with some responses. Okay. So, common challenges and how to overcome them. One of the key challenges that people face is bias feedback. Bias feedback is just people telling you, for example, I don't like the edit feature on WhatsApp. Meanwhile, they do like it. So you have to be very critical and skeptic of when people give you feedback. If it's feedback that you can verify, that's why it's good to always do at least two types of research. So either you do a focus group and a survey, then you can complement, then you can check some of the feedback to verify, some of the responses to verify, so you don't fall into the trap of getting biased feedback. So use diverse sources and then try to bring about a solid core understanding. So you triangulate the data. Triangulate just means trying to zone in on the key problem and then going from there. Another challenge is interpreting latent needs. Sometimes it's unclear how you get that. If customers are asking you for example, back then, customers were asking for a better, a move from this. You can see this here. Look, if you look at the buttons here, it joined these two together. So customers were wanting a bit more separation, so they gave you this. But if you were a company that was forward thinking in trying to uncover latent needs, then you would have been thinking maybe customers just want entire blank screen and then we'll have on-screen keyboard. So how do you ignore what customers are asking to give them the needs that they don't even know they have? So that's what you do. So how do you interpret those latent needs? So to do that, you have to use techniques like user persona and empathy maps. These are critical. User persona, we will design them, so you will learn how to create user personas. This is critical, because if you know how to design user personas, then you can group your customers into groups. When you have them into groups, it really helps because it allows you to solve problems for a group of people and not solve problems for individual users. When you solve problems for a group of people, it's easier because you know that whoever has the attributes of a group would most likely be a user of your product. And so it makes product development much simpler and also more effective. Okay, and practice for you, which we'll do this will do in class, and your homework, which would be to create a survey with at least 10 questions to capture customer needs. Choose any product of your choice and get at least 5 people to respond to your survey, and then analyze the responses, and draw and create a document, summarizing your findings. Okay, so we'll do one in class. So it gives you an idea of what I expect for you to do in your assignment. And so if you recall, I said create a survey. A survey of a hypothetical product. In this case, I've done this. So the product here is a smart home assistant device. A smart home assistant device, for those of you who are unaware, is the likes of Amazon Echo or Google Nest. These are products that you can, I can simply speak into them. They play music. I can ask them questions. You call them smart home devices because they're simply, they work differently to your mobile devices. They're literally assistive devices. So you can use them for several things. So this is the Amazon Echo. This is the Google Nest. I can speak to it and tell it to play music, and it does that. I can speak to it and tell it to make a call, and it does that. I can speak to it to connect to my bookstore online and read a book for me. It does exactly that. So that's a smart home device. So in the survey that I create here, the survey is to help facilitate more understanding of what user needs are. So it would help us to improve the product and to better meet the needs of customers. So currently customers have this, but we want to be able to improve it so we can better understand what is it that we're doing right, what are we not doing right, how can we enhance the product, make it better. So these are the questions that are coming to mind. These are the reasons why we want to do a survey to understand. So for you, you will have to do the same as well. Pick any product of your choice and create a survey of a minimum 10 questions. So you can, it allows you to learn why customers are having to essentially to learn customer needs and to better understand how you can serve them. So you always have a brief introduction. Thank you for participating in our survey and about smart home assistant devices. Your feedback will help us improve our product and better meet your needs. That's the brief introduction. And then question 1, which features do you currently use the most on your smart home assistant? Select all that apply. So people can actually select everything. Or they can just select, they can say, actually, I use it at the moment to play music, maybe voice commands, to control things around my house, like the lights, thermostats, etc. And I use it to set reminders and alarms. I use it to answer questions, and if others specify. So customers can say, no, I only use it for 2 things, and that's useful to know, because if, now I know that people, this person use it for this, but remember, I'm sharing this with lots of people. So people are going to tell me different things. So everybody's going to have their own view of how they use a smart home device. So, and on to the next question. How often do you use your smart home assistant? Some customers can say they use it for multiple times a day, once a day, a few times a day, but that's a question I've posed. So I'll get a variety of responses for the question. And then number 3, what additional features would you like to see in a smart home assistant? Again, the same thing. You can answer, how satisfied are you with the current voice recognition capabilities? Very satisfied, and so on. So then number 5, do you feel that your smart home assistant adequately protects your privacy? Again, yes, no, unsure. How important is it for you that the smart home assistant integrates with other smart home devices? Again, you could see I provided, the responses for them to provide. So this is the question. These are the responses that I want users to select from. For this question, a customer can say it's very important, and that's it. And the next one, would you recommend your smart home assistant to others? Some people will say definitely, some people will say maybe, some people will say definitely not. So again, the selection is here. So this is my survey that I've designed. And that's it. And then the last question is, any additional comments or suggestions? This is an open text box that can tell me whatever they want to say. So that's the survey. So remember, you have to create your own survey on a topic, on a product of your choice. Create a survey with at least 10 questions to capture customer needs. Choose any product of your choice. Yeah, so choose any product. Remember, at the beginning of this, I showed you, I said, these are some of the products that are out there. So you can choose any of these products to design your survey. Okay, so that's the survey that I did. And then I went on to the next bit, which is get at least 5 people to respond to your survey. Analyze the responses and create a document summarizing your findings. So the next bit of that is, these are the responses. I gave responses from 5 people. So respondent 1 gave me this, voice command, music. So these are what they use their so you can see that's the question. I said, which features do you currently use the most on your smart home assistant? And this person said voice commands, music playback, reminders, and alarm. That's it. And then the next question, that's the response. So I then summarize, I then put all the questions, all the answers for each. That's that. Respondent 2, the same thing. Yeah, you can see the same thing. So for 5 different respondents, and that was it. And then I wanted a better way to view them all in a table. So I said, this is question 1, respondent 1, respondent 2, all the way to 5. These were their responses. So you can see now, and I can see the differences. Yeah, because it's comparative. I can see what they gave. I can see that respondent 1 gave me 3 different things, whereas this one gave me 2. So I can see where there are similarities. Music playback. Yeah, I can see that music playback is why some people use it. 2 people said they use it mainly, they use it for music playback. So you can see that by putting it in a table format, I can see the responses for question 1 collectively. And then similarly, in this, multiple times a day, once a day, a few times a day, once a day. So I can see here that 2 people said they use their smart home device once a day. That's good to see, because here I couldn't really see that, but putting it in a table format allows me to see that. And then for question 3, again, the same thing. So I did that, put it all in a table for all the 10 questions. And then now moving on to the summary. So in the summary, I'm trying to summarize what I have seen. What are my observations? You can see I made an observation here. One of my observations was that two people use their smart home device once a day. That's an observation. You put it in your summary. Whatever you observe from the responses, you articulate it here, you write it here. So commonly used features, so I put it like that. And then I said, The most commonly used features is voice commands and smart home control. These are the frequently used features among respondents. And then I moved on to usage frequency. Most respondents use their smart home assistant at least once a day. Yeah, with some using it multiple times a day. So again, these are my observations. So I put them in summary. So when I say analysis, that's what I mean. So summarizing your findings, that's a finding. Yeah, and then desired features. What exactly are users? What do they desire? So I put it here. Enhanced privacy controls and improved voice recognitions are the most frequently requested features. This is good to know. As a product manager, looking at this, it's really helpful because now I have an idea of how to enhance our product. Yeah, so these are customer needs. Doing it this way allows you to understand customer needs. And in turn, when you move on to the next phase of development, you can use this as your Bible. This is your source of truth. It really helps in terms of you understanding core customer needs. What are your customer needs? By doing a survey like we've done here, you can see that we end up with a clear, concise summary that shows us what customer needs are. And then we can choose the one that we care about the most and then improve them and implement them. Any questions? Okay, no questions, that's fine. So I also put that here, but I wanted to show you in a Google Doc so you see how I did it there. Yes, go ahead. Is that a question? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Please, I would like to know how to, or should I say, how do we source for focus groups? Do we create them ourselves, or do we go? Is there a particular place that we can get them, or do we just, put out a survey as well to get them? How does that work?
Great question. So yes, that's known as focus group planning. So for you to do any of these methods of customer identification, customer needs identification, you will need to do a planning. So there's planning where you say, okay, what type of research do I want to do? So if you decide surveys, you say, okay, well, how do I get my data? What questions do I need to ask? Then you sit down and plan. If you want to do interview, okay, how many people do I want to interview? You plan all of those things in advance and then you then begin. And then with focus groups, it's the same thing. You plan, okay, I want to do a focus group. How many people do I need in the focus group? Okay, what platform are we going to use? Are we going to make it in person or are we going to make it online and hold it on a Google Meet or a Zoom? So these are all decisions that you as the organizer would think in advance and plan, and then you then share the information with people. So when they join your focus group, you're ready to go. So there are no platforms that would answer these questions for you. So these are questions that you yourself would do. So the number one thing, if you want to do a focus group, is to first decide how many people do you want. If you say 5, okay, 5 people, then recruit those 5 people and tell them what you want to do, what research you want to do, and then that gives them the idea of what they're if they still want to join you and help you with your research. If they say yes, then fantastic. Then you then create maybe 5 questions or so, because focus groups is about conversations. Then you table the topic, you table the question, you ask it in the group, and then the whole group will have something to say. Once you've exhausted that conversation, that question, you move on to the next question. And you do the same thing until all the 5 questions are exhausted. And you may ask a question, one question leads to another, so down the line, before you know it, your time has elapsed. So if you decided you wanted to hold a focus group for 2 hours, then that 2 hours can, at the end of 2 hours, you'd have done your focus group, and that will be it. And also you can decide to record that conversation so you can come back and watch it and make notes, or you can recruit someone to be the note taker to capture all the responses that are being said around the room, or you can simply just record it and come back and watch it and capture the notes then. So there are various approaches. There is no right or wrong. There is only what works best for you. Does that answer your question?
All right, thank you. Yes, please.
Okay. Great, but the exercise for the week, I realized that focus group is very advanced and interviews also advanced. I want us to build confidence with a survey. So this allows you to understand how to conduct research and how to analyze that research. I've shown you an example here. I'll share this with you as well, and for you to look at. But what over to you now is, I would love everyone by Saturday next week to share their own, before Saturday, to send me their research that they've done on at least a product of their choice. Yeah, choose any product and conduct research on it, which is at least 10 questions minimum, and then get at least 5 people to respond to that, and then try to analyze that following the method that I've used here. I'll share this with you so you can do. Any questions on the assignment for the week? Super, love it. No questions? Is that a hand up? Go ahead.
Thank you, Darlington. It's not a question per se. We've not gotten feedback from our previous assignment.
Okay. I've reviewed it. I just haven't shared the feedback yet, but I will share that before end of Wednesday next week. Okay. And also is there another hand up?
Yeah. Hi. Please, can you repeat the assignment for the week, because I was logged out. I checked out when it happened, when you mentioned it, please.
Okay. So assignment for the week is to create a survey with at least 10 questions to capture customer needs, and you can choose any product of your choice. So the main goal is to help you become familiar with how we understand customer needs. Survey is it's a great tool that can help you to do that, to understand what your customer needs are. And so choose any product and craft at least 10 questions that would help you to know more, to learn more about what pain points customers have. And then moving forward, then you can get at least 5 people to respond to that survey, and then you can then analyze that survey and summarize your findings. And I've done an example which I will share. So review the example, and that gives you some insights for how you too can create your own survey, and then the process of analyzing it. So getting your respondents and how you summarize that. You can see here I've grouped it in respondent 1, 2, all the way to 5, and then I put it in a table so I can see. This allows me now to draw inferences and to make good analysis that I summarized here. And that is the homework for the week. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome, that's okay. And there's something else to read: how to capture what the customer wants. McKinsey and Company is the number one management consulting firm in the world. I love going on their platform because there's so much to read, and each time you read their content, you are 1% better. So I'm going to be sharing their content at the end of every class every week. They're usually very long. It's about 14 or 20 something pages. Bear with them as you read it. Some things you will understand, some things you may not understand. If you need clarity on those things that you don't understand, just simply write down a question and send to me, and I will try to explain it to you. But it's usually, it's a great source as someone getting involved in tech. It's a great platform, and I will be sharing these articles with you, and they're really good for your enhancement. So I'll share this as well. So that means there are 3 things to do: to read this and to read this. Chapter 2, I believe. Is it 2 or 3? No, to read chapter 3. Yeah. So to read this and to read chapter 3 of the book, which is here. Yeah, understanding customer needs. And you can see in there's an example of Netflix that has been given. So again, very crucial. You can see how customer needs, how that evolve. And the Netflix story, I've told it before, but it's told even more in the book. Again, crucial. And then lastly, the assignment. So there are 3 things to do before next class. To read this, additional how to capture what customers want, and then the assignment, and then to also read chapter 3 of the book. So that's 3 things. I will share that again so you can keep in mind. And Godfrey will chase everyone during the week to ensure that we're all doing our key readings, and because by doing these things, we are solidifying our understanding, and it makes every class easier for you. That's all, guys. Any questions? Fantastic. That's the end of the class for today.